Hello. What we are looking at today is we are looking at 3D figures, and specifically what we're going to be looking at with 3D figures is nets. This is part of Unit 8, Lesson 1, and so we'll go ahead and we'll get into this right here. So our objective today is that we are going to identify three-dimensional objects generated by two-dimensional shapes. So basically what that means is that there's going to be a bunch of little two-dimensional shapes that when you combine them all together, they're going to give you one big three-dimensional figure. So that's what we're going to be looking at here today. The key concept is a net. And so what a net is basically a two-dimensional diagram. So it's something that you'd see on a sheet of paper that has a whole bunch of surfaces on it, and you can take those and turn it into a three-dimensional figure that can be folded to form a geometric shape. So again, starting with something that's 2D, like a sheet of paper, and you're going to fold it so that it's going to become a geometric solid. That's what we're going to be looking at. So I've got three examples of that. And so really kind of the two steps are: one, you want to identify what your potential base is, and then two, you want to fold the shape together. Now, obviously this is a video. We're not going to be able to physically fold this, but I want us to kind of picture that. And once we have our base, then we can kind of take that and we can look at it and we can say, hey, this is what it might look like if we folded it up. So what we've got here is we've got what looks like five different shapes going on here. So we basically have a triangle. Let me stop with that there. So what we have is we start with a triangle. And so that's going to be kind of the first thing that you're going to see here, is that you essentially have one triangle here. So we'll just call that T1, triangle 1. And so then we've got triangle 2, and then we've got triangle 3, and then we've got triangle 4. So that's what we're going to be seeing here. So we've got four different triangles that we're going to be looking at. And then right here in the middle, we have a square. So we can just call that square 1. And so what we need to do first is identify the potential base. Once we know what the base is, that's kind of what it's going to be setting on. So like, for example, I've got a little box right here. And so you can kind of see here that this little box, if I was to set that somewhere, I could have it sitting down kind of right like this. It's kind of hard to see, but kind of sitting it down, and you can see it would sit right on that, whatever that surface is. So it's going to sit on that squarish piece that you've got going on there. And so that's kind of what we're going to have. So we're going to say our base is going to be square 1. So we'll just say square 1 is our base. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fold the shape together. Now, this picture gives some nice little dotted lines there. You can kind of see all the little dotted lines. We're just going to kind of fold on those dotted lines. And so basically what you've got here is you've got this square right here. So we're just going to call that square 1. And then we're going to fold all those dotted lines up. So it's going to kind of come like this. So that's going to kind of be triangle 1, triangle 2, triangle 3, and then triangle 4. So you can say T1, T2, T3, and then T4. And so that's what it's going to kind of look like. And then what you got to do is you got to be able to identify what that shape is. So what this is you have a square on the bottom. And so we would just go ahead and call this a pyramid. So we'd call that a pyramid. That's what we would see there. All right, taking a look at another one. This one, a little bit trickier. So again, we've got to identify the potential base. And so the first thing that we want to do is just kind of look at what all we have for our shapes. So this right here, 6-sided shape, we'll just call that a hexagon. And so hexagon has 6 sides, but we're just going to call that hexagon 1. And this down here is going to be hexagon 2. Then all of these down here, they look like rectangles. So we're just going to go ahead and call them rectangles. So we'll do R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, and R6. So those are where we have all of our shapes. Now, what we can do here is there's really kind of two different options that you have. One of those options would be saying that, hey, my base is going to be that rectangle, because there's a lot of rectangles there, and you've probably seen shapes that have rectangles and it's sitting on that rectangle, and then you'll have kind of a different shape at the end. You could do that. What I would recommend doing is having one of these hexagons be your base and have it stand straight up and down. So we're just going to go ahead and say hexagon 1 is going to be our base. So we'll go ahead and we'll draw that right here. So we've got hexagon 1 is going to be our base. So we'll say H1 right here. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to fold everything up. Now, we're going to want to fold along this line here first. So we're going to fold that rectangle up. So we'll just go ahead and we'll put this rectangle right up here in the air. So we'll kind of do that right there. And that is connected to rectangle 3. So we'll just say R3 is right here. And so from there, we're going to kind of start to just fold that around. And so you can see there's going to be another rectangle here. That would have been R4. There's going to be another rectangle here. That's going to be R5. There's going to be another one here. So that would be R6. And then now we're back at the beginning. So we'd have R1. And then we would have R2 right here. Looks kind of messy there and everything, but that's kind of what you're going to end up seeing right there. And since our base is a hexagon, that's how we're going to name our shape there. This is going to be something else that's going to be covered when we're talking about 3D shapes, but when you're naming it, typically anything with rectangles is going to end up being a prism. And then all we have to do is put whatever shape is the base as our front name there. So it's a hexagon. So we would just say that that's a hexagonal prism. And that's what we would have there. What it might look like if you didn't have all of those names on there is if I drew it like this, or if I didn't have all of those bases labeled. So you can kind of see, I draw all of those pieces up like that, and then juke, 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 and juke. It's kind of like that. Again, kind of messy to look at it like that. If I laid it on its side, it would look kind of something like this right here. So you'd have that, and then you could draw another hexagon right here. And then just kind of connect the corresponding points together. So it would look kind of like that. That, again, would be if you're laying it on its side. All right, one more, and this one is going to look a little different here. And so, again, we have to identify the potential base. Now, if you look at this, there's really only one shape that we have, and that's just going to be this circle right here. So we'll just call that circle 1. This right here is not technically a shape. It's kind of like a part of a shape. Like if you thought of it, it kind of looks like a sector. So if you remember back in Unit 7, kind of looks something like that. Like you have kind of a point right here, and then you have your arc that's going to be there. That's kind of be what this is right here. It kind of looks like an arc. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that our circle is going to be our base, and we're going to go ahead and just kind of create that right there. And then what we have to do is we have to kind of fold that along. Now, if I fold it and go straight up, it's going to kind of look something like this, where we would have this here, and then you'd kind of have it just kind of come and touch just barely there. And so it's almost like it's like a tangent point, just barely touches that right there. That's not going to work for us. We have to kind of bring that around and kind of make it look more like a coffee filter. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to have it be at this point. Everything is going to get to kind of that point right up there. And then it's just going to kind of wrap all the way around. And so that's kind of the best thing that I can do right there. And we would just call that shape a cone. So that is just kind of a brief little introduction into nets and how you can use those to make our 3-dimensional shapes.